I have always been fascinated by Mkhize.
Now, businesswoman and philanthropist Shauwn Mkhize, popularly known as Mkhize, has published a book.
Today, Royal AM owner Shauwn Mkhize's home and the clubhouse were raided by police and SARS officials as authorities aim to preserve and secure assets while searching for documents related to an outstanding tax debt of nearly 40 million rand.
The Hawks Police and South African Revenue Service officials have raided the Umhlanga home of controversial businesswoman Shauwn Mkhize.
From the wealth, the cars, the houses, the way she was able to build her companies to such great heights has always captured my imagination.
Wow, Shauwn.
If I don't spoil myself, who will, my babes?
Nobody, because you don't have a mean.
The person that spends the most money in the family, I won't even think twice about that. It's Andile.
The most expensive item that I own is my house in Mkhize. The most expensive gift is a Rolex.
How did she do it? I would ask myself. How did she accumulate what Forbes would estimate is around 350 million rand? How did she become so successful? How did she afford all these cars, all these homes, all these houses, all these vacations, until it all came crashing down in 2012?
It's not the first time that Shauwn Mkhize is in hot water over her taxes.
Njengamanje ngihamba nge-ofisini u-Aisha ubenza ama-working my accountant. Ubenza ama-working zale ndaba yami lengaphili no SARS.
Popping bottles of expensive champagne in celebration of construction tycoon Shauwn Mkhize's legal victory.
You see, the story of Mkhize and SARS is a story of a love and hate relationship between two entities. On one hand, here you have this juggernaut business black woman who's clearly not afraid to flaunt her wealth and show the world how good she has it. But on the other hand, you have the South African government who says that all the wealth she's accumulated was acquired through devious practices. So today I have to understand what is it once and for all between SARS and Mkhize, and Ngempela, is the money she has made even legitimate? Because as you're about to see in this video, this relationship between these two goes way back, and for us to even understand it, well, we have to go all the way back to 2005, because this is the beginning, unbeknownst to Mkhize, of her downfall. So the year is currently 2005, and here you have this person, Shauwn Mkhize, and she's a very successful woman at this point. Make no mistake about that. You see, by this time, Shauwn Mkhize had really amassed a lot of wealth, but you're probably wondering how she did it. Well, it's through construction and government contracts like Amatenda and so forth and so on. She would even go into property development. This would continue to boost her wealth around this time. It's how she actually made a bulk of her wealth. She had this thing called Izikhulise Group, which is an umbrella term basically that talks about the different companies that take care of different aspects of her business life. So one is for construction, one is for tenders, etc. So at this point, Mkhize is clearly on top of the world. She really doesn't have anything to worry about. But if we skip over to a few years later, at around 2012, we realize that since 2005, SARS has been doing something in the background. You see, around this time, Shauwn Mkhize was facing allegations of financial misconduct, which included tax evasion and fraud over the years. You see, back if we go to 2005, she was convicted of VAT fraud, receiving a 3-year sentence, suspended for 5 years, and her company was fined 15,000 rand. And in 2012, she faced charges related to tax evasion and fraud, but details about the outcomes of these charges are not specific in available sources. So we can see Uguti around 2005 and around 2012, Mkhize was facing some really serious, heavy legal charges of fraud and tax evasion and VAT fraud by the South African Revenue Services. And of course, Mkhize would deny all of these allegations that were being put towards her. And it seemed for a moment, for a second, that the trouble had subsided. But little did Mkhize know that this was only the beginning of her problems, because not only would she grow in wealth, but she would also grow as a personality in South Africa. And with all of this attention, things started going wrong.
Sane has been granted bail.
She owes the revenue service more than 200 million rand.
Shauwn Mkhize is facing fraud charges.
The following year, in 2013, something interesting happens, because in this year, SARS claimed that Mkhize owes over 200 million rand in unpaid taxes, which would highlight a substantial tax compliance concern. It is clear that whatever was going on in Mkhize's finances, something very bad was really happening. For her to owe 200 million rand in taxes is not normal. You see, by this point in Shauwn Mkhize's life, all of her tenders were under investigation, and the houses her company had built were also being demolished because they were quote-unquote unsafe. Something weird happened during this time in Mkhize's life, because the municipality continued to defend her, and she defended herself by claiming that all the accusations were motivated by professional jealousy, because she consistently delivered better quality houses at lower costs and refused to become part of construction cartels. Now, this is very interesting, guys. The reason why all these entities are coming after her is because she refused to join construction company cartels. Wushuguti, around this time, there was clearly cartels leading the construction space, or you could even call them the construction mafia. And Shauwn Mkhize clearly saw that if she entered the market and charged lower prices, she would obviously get more tenders and more clients. And she is claiming that the powers that be were not happy with what she was doing, and that's why they wanted the government to come after her, because she was not complying with the construction cartel.
As much as they are construction mafias, it's very important to collaborate. I've been in the industry for 2 decades with the construction mafia involved, but what I do when I come, I sit down, because it's a crying for help to them. You just need to sit down, understand to them what is it that they need, and you collaborate. I've collaborated with them. I've built quite a lot of people that are coming from these, you call them construction mafias, I call them business forums.
However, SARS would continue with their fight against Mkhize around this time period, but she would rise above all of this, because around 2020, something interesting that would change Mkhize's life forever would happen, because it is this year that the show Mkhize is born, and it would birth the personality, the celebrity we would know as Mkhize. Because in January 2020, Mzansi Magic would air the show Mkhize, and it featured her children Usbahle Mkhize, Andile Mkhize, as well as her extended family. And the show was even awarded the Best Reality TV Show at the 2020 Hollywood American Prestigious Awards. The persona, the personality, Mkhize was born, and she made it very clear that she had money. Unfortunately, SARS would also be watching the show when South Africa was watching the show as well. Because in November 2024, SARS, which was armed with the preservation order and a search-and-seizure warrant granted by the Durban High Court, raided her luxurious La Lucia residence in Durban. So around this time, SARS really wanted to send a message that they were not playing with Mkhize anymore. The tax evasion was not going to be taken lightly any longer, because not only were they by themselves this time, but they were even armed with the South African police services. This was a clear, serious matter. And around December of 2024, reports would start to emerge that SARS had also seized control of the Royal AM Football Club, which was owned by Mkhize, and this is due to obviously ongoing financial and tax related issues. This is where we are today regarding the relationship between Mkhize and SARS, because this relationship, whether we like to admit it or not, goes all the way back to 2003, 2005. This has been an ongoing battle between these two for the longest periods of time. You see, people are clearly divided on this issue, because they're saying that black business people are scrutinized heavily more than their white counterparts. However, with all this going down, you would imagine that the Mkhize family would lay low for a while, but that's not the case, surprisingly, because on a recent Instagram post, you would even see that Andile Mpisane would be showcasing himself buying a new BMW on TikTok. And you'd even have another tweet saying, "News just in. The South African Revenue Services has announced that the Royal AM Football Club is up for sale, with bids starting at approximately 1 million rand on the 14th of March. But you'd even have another tweet saying, "So-called rich black men and women. This is what they do. Flex on the poor after stealing from them. Andile and his mother, MaMkhize, won't have any funds to use in order to flex. SARS has saved us. I love their downfall." But unfortunately, one of the saddest sentiments that I came across Twitter was this tweet that said, "Meet MaMkhize, a black woman in South Africa who is a multi-millionaire that acquired her wealth through corruption. She didn't do anything to uplift the poor. Instead, she became a social media influencer and started to flex about her lifestyle. As it stands, the state is coming for everything she has. This woman's downfall is one of the best things to happen in South Africa." And this tweet would get 2.2 thousand likes. What's clear is that Mkhize has some serious issues when it comes to her and the South African Revenue Services. Whether or not she's going to be able to bounce back from this remains to be seen. But what I do know is that this is not the last we hear of Shauwn Mkhize.